We love him very much for it. But don't forget, the top 8 are moving on from this. That's just like a victory round is worth 15 points in and of itself. So even if you get the victory round with 3 eliminations, you can now 3. What does this spell for like all of these other teams?
Yeah, you just have to stay consistent. You have to not fear. If you have a couple of bad games, that's okay. If you're able to get in, get situated, get a couple of eliminations, get some placement points in there. As you can see right now, to be on the first page, it's 11 points up there. But one thing I do want to take a look at here. Well, and Lupo even hinted at it, saying at around like top
Fates Mongral, ovviamente il primo posto c'è almeno Mongral. Ci deve essere sempre.
And get this done. And one thing you'll note is when they are on high ground, they're so incredibly disciplined with their angles. They're constantly looking around, adjusting, putting rockets towards their opponents, and then keeping control, working with each other to make sure that they're finding the right targets. I mean, Mongrel's aim on people who are in the air, honestly, you'd think he's using a controller, the way these players just get beamed as they come through, but no, it is just his amazing bro. Just as Mitra would say, that's crazy. They are running it through 38 points up top, and again, always on the high ground. And for me, that's what's so impressive in a meta with so many RPGs, so many shockwaves. The way they're able to not only get initial control, but then run the rest of the lobby without having to drop down and putting themselves in bad situations. They were never threatened. Count the number of times in this clip that bullets or anything are being shot back towards them. Everyone else is so focused on just trying to rotate and avoid damage.
Stanno partendo molto bene perché avranno un sacco di hype lì, quelli nella Lega Campioni, avete capito? Mitro ha belle armi, però non ha colpi, e questa è la preoccupazione. Un po' tipo va bene, e sto non ha ok, so, ha più o meno colpi. Mongral è messo molto bene. No, è messo male perché non ha colpi. No, sì.
Breaking that one down. And let's actually take a look at page 2 of the standings, because as we talked about in the heat formats, the top 8 are going to advance. But just so you can get a hint, 5 elims right now is getting you up into that second page. 25% in order to advance. And you're up every single one of these guys.
No. Sì.
On the leaderboard, they see ways to climb this way up. No, it's serious. That's how MMA, that's how in them. That's what they book retail. The mental game is so important, particularly in a heat structure like this. in the first 2 games,
Vabbè,
if you are
basta.
hanging around off this page, if you're not in direct contention, you might think, man, I'm struggling right now. Like, we really need to get into it, but in reality, you're able to string together 1 or 2 strong games, or even a victory royale right now would put you through, right?
Yeah.
And any of these guys are capable of winning one of these games, so I think they can do it, but it's all about keeping a strong mental game as you're going through.
It's tough, man. I mean, as much as I want to see, dethrone MMB, I am about that, but it's just going to be a lot about mental game, like you're saying. If you start to just lose your confidence even just a little bit, that's going to affect your potential placement in top 8. We'll have to see, though. I'm getting a little too excited, Fortnite fam. I want to see more of this. But yeah, I think we're getting ready. Battle Bus, the players are boarding. Will be there in just a moment. I think we have a package here in just a moment. But what do you think, man? So do you think, where is Aqua? Did we see him? Is he on page 1?
They're not in this heat. They're not in this
Oh, okay,
heat.
I'm sorry.
It's different heats. It's okay.
Different heat.
This
There
is just
is-
heat 1. So
which brings me to
again,
my
just
next
to
point.
remind people, a little too excited here. There are 4 heats
setting
coming
up for
through
you.
in Europe. 8 teams will be advancing and going on. And the way you're able to kind of score and work your way up is through eliminations and placing higher up. Though in Europe, particularly, they have the highest amount of participation. So all of these players they are at the very tippity top, right? This is the top 0.001%.
Right.
These are the best of the best and the people who are very able to compete against these guys. So they're able to elevate their game on a particular day. However, as we're sitting here and able to have our own predictions, there's a reason we all think Mitro, Mongo, and Benji have done it. There are repeated trios who have shown they're consistently stronger and that much better than the rest. It's not like we're basing this off of who our favorite players are, right? It's going and looking at and breaking it down. But for now, we're going to throw to a 10-minute break.
Ok, c'è la schermata
Out on our end,
quella
we'll go talk to the bus
Quella
driver, try and
bella.
get that going. You guys take your bio breaks, whatever you need. We'll be right back.
Hello family of Fortnite, BallTW here, and throughout the Fortnite Champion Series, we're going to be trying to get more acquainted with the world of competitive Fortnite. Today, we're going to be discussing the 3 different stages of a competitive Fortnite game. The early game, the mid game, and the late game, and what different players have as their goals during these stages in order to achieve the ultimate goal, the victory royale. Let's start with the early game. Also called the looting phase, this is where all players are attempting to secure their chosen landing spot and maximize their loot potential. In competitive Fortnite, every game matters. The players try to strike a balance between high loot opportunity and safety so as to not waste a game by being eliminated early. You drop at a high loot POI like Retail Row or Paradise Palms, or land at a safer POI on the edge of the map, where less players drop because of less loot. Regardless, the goal is common. Whether you take a passive approach by looting safely on the side of the map, or an aggressive and risky approach by letting others loot for you and finding early elimination. Now that we know what the early game is, what should we be looking out for during this stage? First things first, being contested. The first realization players make when landing is whether you're being contested or not, to prepare for the upcoming possible fight. Trios want to try to force your opponent into the more disadvantageous position cut off from loot potential. Either they have to make a desperation push, or they're stuck with less loot where you can easily clean up. That's just the beginning, as even though it starts off high intensity with all the different POIs being contested, it quickly slows down as the rotations begin towards first zone. Looting doesn't end here, and most competitive players will have a loot path, which optimizes their possibility for finding the crucial mobility and weapon upgrades. Thanks to the new battle map feature in the replay mode, we can study these loot paths and rotations quite easily these days. So go check that out in any replay from the Fortnite Champion Series by going into the Compete tab and finding your favorite player. It will vary from game to game, but generally, we move into the mid game around the middle to end of second zone. The mid game is the calm before the storm. Before the storm circle gets too small where it forces the engagement. Most players' goals are positional, but in some cases, depending on how the early game went, you again have to strike a balance, this time between looting and farming, or going for the best position. Looting could include playing extremely aggressive to earn yourself other players' loot. Play that aggressive playstyle, since fights take longer and cost more. You want to be efficient with any rotations or fights you have to take. You don't want to spend your precious mobility, valuable resources, or health. This is why you'll see a lot of the top players look directly for center zone in the mid game. When you're in the center zone, you end up giving yourself the most chance of being in the next storm circle when it gets revealed. You'll then have to go less distance and thus spend less materials. Finally, the end game. The most exciting, hectic, thrilling, and difficult part of competitive Fortnite. Experiencing an endgame can be confusing and hard to process, but it will also be one of the most rewarding and fun times to play and watch. This is when you take all the advantages you built in the early game and the mid game and use them to push yourself to a victory royale, and also find as many eliminations as possible. In the current Fortnite Champion Series format, every elimination matters, just like it did in the World Cup. From 6th zone onwards, where the calm from the mid-game explodes into a cacophony of tunneling, mobility usage, and shots being fired, you'll see teams go for the ever-so-advantageous high ground, where they can tunnel very cheaply and have the most opportunity on the rest of the server for elimination, as they have the top-down view. You also see teams call out the need to find a good layer, which is away from other players, both above, below, and horizontally from them. You'll see teams where they can top off on resources and power weaponry of their fallen opponents. So, whether you're watching or you're joining us on the field, take stock in the stage of the game. The early game, when you're trying to get the best possible loot while it's still available. The mid game, where you're balancing positioning while maintaining what you built during the early game. And finally, the end game, where you spend all the advantages you set yourself up with to earn the victory royale. Use this to form your game plan in order to earn as many series points weekend after weekend. And maybe next time, we'll be watching and highlighting your top plays. This was BallaTW, and I'll see you in game.
Hey guys, Shadow Wager here, bringing you a breakdown of one of the most dynamic, flexible, and clutch items every trio is utilizing in the Fortnite Champion Series, the Shockwave Grenade. We're going to be taking a look at some of the basics on how it's used and misused at crucial moments in the game, and how to adapt and play against them towards the end game. To get started, let's get a refresher on what shockwaves are and some of the basics of using them. Shockwave grenades are a utility item that drop in stacks of 2, with a maximum stack size of 6. When thrown, the shockwave launches anyone within its tile-and-a-half radius far distances, destroying builds in the process, with the added protection from fall damage for the players who use them. The most effective way to gain maximum distance is to time your jump well with a shockwave right below you, angling yourself above it for higher vertical movement, or towards the side of it in midair for horizontal coverage. If you do use a shockwave to rotate through builds late game, you will only be able to go through about 5 layers of wood, brick, or metal before you come to a stop. When going for height, if you don't get stopped by any opposing player's builds at all, you can reach upwards of 7.5 tiles in height, giving anyone above you a surprise and changing both yours and your enemy's game plan in a split second. Although really easy to understand and use individually, once entering the atmosphere of trios and teamwork, the use of shockwaves enters a whole new dimension. There are deciding factors in win conditions if used properly, allowing for easy positioning and rotations. Using them and sticking together after the landing is efficient and gets your whole trio online, ready to fire at a faster rate compared to the rest of the competition. Saving these grenades for later use brings an element of surprise as well, and a level of shock to the whole server. Looking at 8th and 9th zones with densely packed endgames, vertical shockwaves make high ground and mid ground layers crumble, and give patient trios and surviving solos a way to counter long tarps and bases towering above them. Facing off against 3 players usually proves fatal though, as you are vulnerable throughout your whole flight and easily targeted by the trio you're trying to attack. Turbo building walls on the way up from your shockwave can work against this though, but gives your newfound height poor foundation, easily shot out and focused from below. Panicking with shockwaves in your own box and misusing them is always an irreversible mistake during the game, giving you poor positioning split away from your trio.
E vabbè, Mitro è molto forte. No! Non ho tirato il Mitro.
Shield pool if used at the absolute incorrect moment. To counteract the chaos from shockwaves,
Max è
new and
morto.
clean strategies are put in place to negate the negatives and potential mishaps in certain situations. When going for height, separately boxing up before using the shockwaves and going for height then allows you to have power in numbers as 3 players get a vertical rotation together, overwhelming the competition. Discovering new positioning and shockwave throwing angles and targets within your box might keep your trio and teammates closer together when using one shockwave to rotate, saving crucial mats and attracting less attention during your mid-game rotation.
No, se li finisci in Maz. Se li finisci in Maz.
Or rotate mid-game. Countermeasures can be taken too, such as keeping a teammate higher than normal, multiple layers above you, as in the event of a vertical shockwave, you still have someone up high who can rain down and support your trio on a retake. Keeping your own shockwaves handy is a way to counter anyone taking height off of you as well. But if both trios play mind games and the circle gets smaller, smaller, and smaller, the more likely a chance there is for a messy, repeat shockwave circus happening all at the same time. Player after player gets sent flying in the sky, with teammates all getting sent around in and out of the storm, off their sharp layers, and splits costing your trio
Ma
more
dai.
resources than normal. Identifying these mistakes, staying in your lane, and watching teams move is a good way to anticipate and prevent disaster from striking before it happens. Although an item overlooked as simple mobility at first, the potential and efficiency of using shotgun grenades as a trio separates the good players from the great. And practicing, reviewing, and watching how plays are set up before they happen is a good way to keep in the loop, improve on mistakes, and get better retakes on height when using one of the most versatile items in the game. Keep your team's position in mind while breaking, jumping, and blasting into the air until you get it just right. And who knows, maybe you can have that top play or amazing clutch
Non ci posso
that helps your
credere.
team while
Ci
competing
l'ho
in the
cosa
FNCS.
fatto. Dottor Lupo? Sbaglio. Ettore!
We had a little bit of issues on our side with the European matches flushing, but there's been a lot of anyway, Middle East
Sì.
No, l'ho tirata
E vai! È Torino! Ciao.
We're gonna hop into some of the
Ciao,
action.
Torino.
Also, I just want to say,
Ciao,
predictions
ciao,
for Middle East are
ciao,
pretty good.
ciao.
I know Z kind of hinted at it, but you can check out on the competitive Twitter and also on the YouTube some of our prediction and our preview piece we were able to go through, and we talked about what some of our predictions, particularly in the Middle East and the European region, are. So make sure you get up to date on that, get what our thoughts and opinions are. But we're going to be hopping into Heat 2, Match 1 of the Middle East region in just a second here. And honestly, I'm excited. It's going to be the first time seeing Middle East outside of the open tournament format, seeing the top teams really
Le stesse cose.
honestly looking at the Heats after
Sì, no, due erano nuove.
up on the board here, you can see there were some differences in the predictions. One, I will say, I was the one who predicted Flame, Prime, and Hunter up there, so swap Zeke and I's names, but otherwise, Klops, Hero Kappa, and Fiesel were the favorites going through. They performed pretty well. You will be seeing them in the Middle East Grand Final tomorrow. However, Flame, Prime, and Hunter were also able to have a positive day in their heat and advance through. So predictions so far are holding steady, and it's going to be exciting once we get in. There is a different style of play, different types of gameplay from all over the regions, but enough from me. I've talked enough. Let's throw it on over to Lupo and Monster as they take you into Middle East Heat 2, Match 1.
Sundown, thank you very much. Just a quick note to those at home. Occasionally we run into issues on the cast. Do your best to not get too worked up about it. You know? There's a lot of things at play here, so
You have to imagine a 10-minute break is an insanely short amount of time to recover and get back into the games. As you can see here on your screen, Heat 2 Game 1 of the Middle East region just starting off. Tilted Town, a number of
Gabriele mi ha
teams
detto no, io
dropping
non voglio
down the
stare
bottom.
con voi
Down here,
domani.
pressure in
Voglio
the
stare con
bottom and the
noi.
pump shotgun. An early blue
Come mai?
shotgun. Tilted down.
No,
As
le
you
tu
can
stai
see,
con
one
Gianluca
of the
perché ti fa
most
fare
powerful
compiti
weapons you can
tutti i
get.
giorni, non te li fanno
It's
fare.
so hard for
E ti fanno giocare tutto il
close
giorno.
fights too.
Such a clean shot. And that's one of the perks of landing in Tilted Town. You know you're going to get a blue. You know you're leaving a
No,
blue
no, li
pump,
fa
you're going to get a
domani.
shot shockwaves, you're guaranteed heals. Like guaranteed minimal.
Poi domani pomeriggio se volete venite qua a giocare.
As well. So this is the place to be, especially if you want a guaranteed loadout. And
Oh, that's
you know, you
tough.
stick around just to get back to
Guarda,
life.
ma-
Not much you can do there. You catch one pick, maybe you get a point for your leaderboard, basically. But
Even
it's
then,
his battle to lose.
you have to hope it's like a solo, otherwise you know they're just going to get picked back up almost immediately. It's a tough spot to be in, but yeah, you're saying early game in Tilted has such a refined loot pool. The trade-off of not being able to build, or in some people's mindsets not having to build, because you know that you can just focus on gun skill and accuracy, is such a big factor in building up an early loot. Just the early loot game is so it's huge here. Like I said,
actually
feels like
crazy,
crazy. Everybody's going to come out stacked with a good set of materials. In fact, just because you can pick up all that stuff out of the chest and off of every elimination. If you do get challenged here, it's arguably one of the better spots to drop right now.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, imagine a game where one of these guys bring that double barrel out of Tilted Town, because there are some rules in play where the double barrel shotgun only spawns in Tilted, but you can even take the weapons out of the place as well. And
Third time's a charm. There we go.
I was
Made it
gonna
up
say,
top.
he's having a little bit of a struggle there, trying to get up and over.
He's got to track down that space bar. It runs away sometimes. Wants to play on controller, I guess. My apologies. Controller gang, love you.
If anything, Controller Gang has the best movement we've seen so far. These guys can go 360 on the.
Clearly, you don't watch my
running and
stream,
all that.
Monster. I appreciate it, though. Yeah.
But all right, now we're looking at Happy Hamlet here. A little bit of a standoff. Moon, Minzu, and Kinji here have that high ground. There's 3 teams here.
The prediction from 4 of the 5 of us, one of the players, Klops, going down on the feet up top there. You hate to see that.
If I had to guess, I actually did ME, Middle Eastern VOD review. They landed towards Junction, so they must have had some kind of problems over at Haunted Hills, but we'll talk about that in just a bit here. As Kenji uses a valuable shockwave to try and take the high ground here, and he is going to get chipped just a little bit. Such a nice pinch going on right here, and this is one of our newer competitive regions, so you know, a little bit of catch-up, right, to catch up to the rest of the competitive scene, per se.
I wouldn't even say that, honestly, because some of these players are so good, Monster. I mean, we've even watched each other grow very quickly playing the game just from watching these competitive experiences. You have opportunities like this. Look at that. Kinji immediately flicks up, gets the knockout if it was trying to shockwave from over the top. But you have to understand, these players in the Middle East region have been asking for their own region for quite a long time, so you know they've been watching the competitive experience between all these other regions. That kind of learning has to have happened big time.
That was a filthy little ramp edit right there to catch AZ2M, and yeah, that's what I wanted to touch on, is that they were held back for so long because of the ping differences, right?
Yep.
But now having their own region, a lot of it has, you know, a lot of these players have found
E vai!
in that factor as well. So good for them. We see new faces come up and catch a little highlight here today.
Kinji picking up your team only suffers a single knockdown. You pick up those 3 eliminations. I'd say that's 100% worth it. Those bubble shields in rotation out. Team moving up on top of the hill. Not sucky landing.
He's actually hit with a little headshot right there and ripped apart all of his shield. Now forced only down to bandages, and this is a battle that they have to take on their heels here. And I like what they're doing. They're backing up as a squad, trying to use this time to also gather some mats in the process. This team is not letting up. You have the NL squad right here, Nella, Easy, and Saya Zine right here, or Saya Zren, excuse me. And they're coming in with the push. They're still fully shielded up for the most part.
Now we got the ultimate high ground right now. Gonna have to fight out one player all the way to the top. Shots coming from third player right there. Looks like a teammate trying to knock down that build. Pushing up side. Ultimate high ground looking down from above. A little explode from underneath. Gonna have to build against that. Waiting for the peak shot. Look at the timing on that. Very last second before getting to the pyramid. Gets a ton of big shots. Looking for the last one. There it is. Finds the knock on Izzy. They have the advantage at this point. Picks up that elimination up to 125 total HP. Nella gets knocked. Wild Gamer picking up that elimination. And an RPG in there is going to be huge. Tack shotgun shots back to back. Finds the 3rd one. And that is a solid 3 eliminations for Psy. Wild Gamer making it up for the loss of Silence down there in the bottom left corner.
Fighting on the heels right there, and they turn that battle around. Very well done. Not Sai, I've actually had the pleasure with, I'm pretty sure, talking as I've, you know, browsed around the Middle Eastern region. So good to see him pulling up and performing here Because they now are pretty much clear, and they have the zone. They're in the clear, they have the zone, they can get this revive off, so Silence is going to be able to come back in the game as he gets hit up on the reboot van.
Huge value. That being said, the inventory of Sai has 2 green tactical shotguns in there with some bandages, AR, that TAC SMG. Lucky landing, looking like it is calm at this point. A lot of builds, but no competition left down here as this trio is going to be able to pick back up. Potentially finish looting up down here, farm any materials they can get out of it. They're in the safe zone. Circle still has 38 seconds before it closes. They're not feeling too much pressure in any way right now. We'll have to see where the next circle goes. This is a good opportunity for them to build up a good buffer, materials, healing, any leftover loot that might be down here, and make their way out of the next safe zone without much issue. Meanwhile, Suber, Sammy, and Dream pushing from outside of the storm, the far east drop here in the desert.
Such a weird place to play as well. The moisty palms where you can't just crouch freely. You have to be very cautious. A lot of the competitive players opting to unbind the crouch just in case. You know, you don't want to make any mistakes there. And honestly, if you do that, you're kind of in the advantage, right? You set yourself up for success, so you don't make any mistakes in PvP. I know myself, I tend to crouch in fights all the time. You don't really realize it till it happens, but
it's a tough break when it does happen, I'll say. Looks like an attempted shockwave to avoid a fight there, but Super does get the pick there. A knockdown is rotating into the storm. Get to safe.
It's going to be a nice little knock there. It's going to replenish his health up. There is a player outside of the storm line. It's going to be his teammate, Will, who's waiting nearby. And you can see over at the other kind of crater there to the left where you can farm up all the stone. That's probably where the rest of that guy's duo is.
Most likely,
I should say here. But someone does see the rotation. They're pushing on in. We have a trio coming in.
So now's the time. You have people just coming in from the storm. You think you're in the better position. Pushing is basically a no-brainer. You see here, I have to fight to stay in.
Heard the shots outside the storm wave. You figured you might as well push out. These guys are going to come out with a little bit of health tick. Anything to have that advantage there.
Drop them back.
Right, Samuel and Super here says, you know what, this is not the battle we want to take. The third party, it actually isn't a third party. They're just pressuring with Splodes here, so they want to back up. They want to reset a little bit here.
I don't blame him. You basically started that fight not as a full trio. Sammy was still outside in the storm, and so rotating back away and saying, nah, this is not the fight to take. We're not exactly in the best spot. Plus, if you think about it, they did force that team, the team that applied pressure from inside the safe zone, to burn through some traps. There's some zap traps in the wall, so you've gotten rid of those, cleared those out of the inventory, which is great for later in the game. Ultimately, kind of a win-win. Set of eliminations here.
This is a nice little look right here. You can see those teams that are on the west and north side of the map forced to fight their way down now. Quite a rotation here as the zone seems to be pushing all the way south. So the later you move, the more congested this rotation will be, the harder it will be for you later in the games. You really want to get down here early, especially when a zone favors one side pretty heavily. You see competitive players try to rotate nice for him. I'm
looking for Nazir to hit a snipe shot here. He keeps pulling that heavy sniper out and taking a look. Hasn't gone for it yet. I would say position-wise, not the best call. You draw a lot of attention to yourself as you are further outside towards the edge of what is currently safe. So people are probably going to look back and try and stormhold you. But could you imagine Nazir hitting just crazy snipe right there on the rotation in? They suddenly have advantage, a trio versus only 2 left up. They could push through, pick up 3 elims, all the materials, and make their way in the safe zone.
And this is actually very interesting right here. FHD actually opened this battle up with a heavy snipe. They catch the knock, but they don't even collapse to kind of seal the deal. They say, you know what, instead, we're going to focus more on the zone here. They're going to get ahead, so they use that little bit of distraction, downtime, and chaos to get ahead of the zone here. It's probably still going to convert if they can get to the zone first and then turn the battle back around.
Depends on how fast the storm is moving on this edge. They are closer to the short side, so it's moving slower. But yeah, you have a chance maybe for a pickup there, but I think, like you're saying, in that moment they say, yeah, we got the knock, we could push forward, but placement at this point probably more important. You're looking at 26 trios remaining. You don't get the placement points until top 15, and even then, it's only 3. So right now, pushing into the storm, getting to safe, very, very important. You want to
le regole grammaticali, cosa sono?
As early as possible, and get into a safe spot so you can sit and wait.
We saw a little bit of a storm surge warning there as we're approaching zone 3. you have to be cautious when there's over 70
Ma
players.
mica sono regole
So,
grammaticali.
ratio, Storm Surge will start to tick. So
Di
it's only one
grammatica.
trio probably affected right now. This trio here is completely safe, 105 damage above. But anything can happen. You can get pushed by the
Più,
wrong
non lo
ones.
so.
The other team can jump into a fight. So
At this point, only one player needs to go down, too, and we might actually find it. There it is. What a snipe. FHD looking back to the east over there. A quick little flick, a 157. They're going to try and apply pressure.
No.
Teammate up top. Trying to secure, maybe get a chance for revive. Stinks.
they actually used a lot of resource just to try and keep that player safe right there. He chucked back the zap trap and the stink. So using all, if not most, of their throwables right there just to hold the power squad down here in the factory area. This is the second time now they've caught a knock, and they haven't quite, seized the moment. Very patient. Will it bite them in the butt later on, though?
Honestly, I think that's the smartest play, because you see right now, all three of those players up on the hill are stacked up next to each other, and they may have seen, because you had people that were rotating in, I believe that's southeast of the factory area they're in right now, so they get the knock, yeah, but you're down below. Your only option basically is to try and take shots on the structure and get the knockdown player exposed and immediately eliminate. If you don't get that player's crawling back, he's line on the hill, plus you have other people that they're going to see that and a chance for third party. I would rather see these players do exactly what they're doing right now and sit inside the build, do all the wall replaces and wait just a minute, because what might happen, and you see in your mini-map, that almost is the call there, that trio, the one that they got the knock on, there's a team further outside. They're going to get pressure from the back. They have a chance to sandwich. That might be eliminations that they can pick up later, rather than applying pressure and maybe getting third party themselves.
I almost also want to say, though, that's the same team that's done got sniped twice by FHD, so he's a magnet for the heavy sniper. Got to be careful, buddy.
Little rivalry
Tuck
building up
the
there.
head down. You got to duck. Careful on the peaks here, but NM7. Teams are collapsing everywhere. Minute left. And he catches another one right in the tail. Aziz TV is going to go down, and this time they are not safe. He says it's time to battle. They want to push this through with less than a minute on the rotation. Here comes the stinkers. The heavy snipe cracks open the wall. There is a team nearby. They can hear the shots. They're looking over if you look at your map, but they're going for safety instead. It's a long rotation.
Around. You see those two trios in the southeast side. They're rotating around trying to get in the safe zone. Meanwhile, these two teams that have literally fought each other time and time again now are finally applying pressure. NM7 with a build-up, trying to get the high ground. Not going to be able to do it just yet. Going to wait just a moment. Doesn't want to get pushed too far in on that trio without his teammates at his back. One elimination currently, but if the pressure is good and gets a better position, might be able to convert that into another three. We'll see here in a second. Shots from inside the safe zone. They're just at the edge. And there are so many teams so close together. 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe 5 trios within probably 50 meters of each other right there.
And Aziz and his trio is actually really lucky. Aziz was traded out. That duo, what was left of the trio, managed to squeak away here. Heavy snipe returns. He hits another one. FHD is on fire right now with the shot. So you can see here, this team is scary with a double heavy sniper. They're loaded up right now. Here comes the focus fire.
The trio focus fires. HD pays the price. Another team up behind. That's what I was saying. 5 trios in one. Like basically 150-meter circle is so tough, because as soon as you start spraying on one, everyone's going to look at you and say, you're exposed right now and you're not looking at me. It might be the time to take a shot. Imagine if instead of AR spray, that was a heavy snipe. That could have been an immediate knock, and then suddenly the tables are turned on this team.
Big pots right there, so the squad kind of hooking them up. They still have 6 tug splashes. They have, slurps for the road. They're very, very set up right now.
With how close together they are to other teams, I'm surprised they're not using. They have 11 chug splashes. Use even just one of those, just to top off one player and get your last one to only 5 HP missing, because if you're in a bad spot and you start getting beamed, you're going to want every single HP that you can get. Oh, the double snipe, double heavy. Here we go. Looking for it. Finds the first one. Beams, and not side goes down. straight into the launch pad to rotate into the circle. This trio's playing very, very well.
Outside should have known better than to sit still in a 1-by-1. That is one of the risks you take, especially in trio. There's way too many eyes focused on the field here. There's no way you can sit still in a box. That's the price you pay right there. FHD, Janssen, NM7 doing a fantastic job right now holding the server down. Really, they're dictating the pace right here with all pressure, all fire coming in. This is the most active trio we've seen so far in the server.
The east side of the map basically belongs to them thus far. There is that team. You saw them look up above on top of the hill, looking down. You got to be very careful on the angles. Would not be surprised if there's a chance that shots come down from the top. NM7 getting shot. Team from NES over there. Back, one tap just past them. You look very top middle of your screen. That's the team I was talking about. They're all the way up top. They have a zip. They have height advantage. The little window peak on the brick wall that's edited right there, just out of screen now. You also down in Happy Hamlet have Minzu, Moon, and Kinley. The ultimate high ground down here. Number of teams underneath.
Fantastic loadout as well. 6 shockwaves, 2 shield bubbles. They're set up so pretty up here. Nice little headshot right there from Kinji's gonna put some hurting on that team right there. They do have a heavy snipe to crack open the build as well. Snake, someone tries to take that high ground. He's gonna eat a couple of bullets for the sandwich right there. Assaulting goes down by Kinji. Nice reaction speed right there. That shockwave play was not the one to do.
A valiant effort, but did land right in the middle of a trio, all kid of the teeth. Kinji has that shield bubble out. Looking to potentially make a rotation soon. We'll have to see here. I almost want to see one of these players toss it straight up, knock it down onto their own head, and make a move with it at the same time.
So he puts the bubble down so that their pad doesn't get taken out. So he says he's gonna set that up for the safety measure right there, and just like that, they are able to skate away and get to the next safe zone here. Nice long rotation, perfect launch pad. Not a single one of their teammate was affected or shot on that rotation right there. So that was a very clean pad away.
Let's see, power still solid right there. Toggle, Eska.
Another player from one tap's gonna get taken out right there as Toggle's chucking in all of the grenades right here. Flexi goes down, Iki gets taken out right there, and he catches another knock. That's a triple knock with the grenades right here. He's just letting them go.
But grenades are pretty good, especially when you have so many players stacked together. You have your teammates spray down the walls where you're tossing those things.
And just look at the map. They're all in the same spot, so naturally you're going to hit someone.
We're about to get into placement points here just before we cut. We have 16. There you go, 16 trios remaining. As soon as we get to top 15, everybody picks up a set of points. 34 players total, which means a lot of these trios are no longer trios. You have quite a few single or duo players left at this point. The feed's still lighting up. Players are now forced to the northwest side.
Oh, I see. It looks like they're setting up a shockwave, right? Are they trying to set up the perfect shockwave kind of play here, angling the strokers?
Craftsmanship is key, just as a reminder.
It's important to set it up properly so that everyone can get on out, but it looks like there's no time left. They're just going to have to go ahead and throw it down. It's going to be a very scuffed shockwave here.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Sigel with a big move there, landed literally in a set of builds already, and there's edits set up. He now has a bubble shield to protect. He can look back and try and help his teammates if he needs to, or make a move here. He's going to try and build up to his duo.
And Eska does get taken out there, so my house and the house I most admire. I'm a heaven, hate my house and the house I know tomorrow. I'm a heaven,
just waiting for the edit. You know what's going to happen, just wait for the edit. Spock's in, going to try and get out of the storm. 0-13 HP, traps down, he does have the splashes, but it is not enough. The trio goes down, looks like in 13th place. 12 trios remaining as the rest of the field, shockwaves, tarps, and launch pads towards the next safe zone.
Now we're looking at the end game, Zone 7 here. You have your teams already situated up in the high ground. Shockwaves are already flying all around you here. Power, NM7, we're jumping back in. We saw land some ridiculous snipes earlier today. Does it still have that heavy sniper? Someone is going to sneak up behind them, but they have a nice little pinch right there. Great white shot right there. Dr. Nico, he catches Anatomy with a quick cleanup and quick reaction speed right there. It's actually 2 that fall down to them. And they're still a full trio.
Big hit. Quick little splash. Put another 20 across the board.
It's my house in the Ozark summer. Ah, in the haze and I hate my house in the Ozark summer. Ah, in the haze.
Who's doing what on the team? Still making moves, so bubble shield there. Plus the zone is right at their back. Player dropping in, same floor behind, rotating out in the storm, trying to stay safe, but can't quite find it. Back into the safe zone here as NM7's looking back. This is a great opportunity. If he had held that for maybe 2 or 3 more seconds, he might have had another shot on the player that did get the knockdown underneath. Big movement into the safe zone is key here, but he's only sitting on 3 builds. He's got 3 metal builds remaining. 9 points and there's 6 trails left.
My house in the Ozark summer. Ah, in the haze and I hate my house in the Ozark summer. Ah, in the haze.
As Minzu takes him out, we've been following Minzu Yonks and FHD for all these players for so long now.
Ma dai, ma tutti adesso hanno finito il materiale.
Minzu on YouTube. Boxfighter, Moon, and Kinji all have the high ground right here. They have stinkers, they have explodes. They're set up for success right now. Here comes a quick edit. Minzu's trying to get this peek right here. Is he going to be able to connect? No, the shot pushes him out. In comes the firing. He doesn't have time to push all the way through. It's going down. So they close out by staying alive just long enough. The shots, the
secondi. Il power! Sono arrivati i primi power. Non ci posso credere.
Minzu's trio went from the only full team left to both players knocked and Minzu in the storm because of a single shockwave so fast. I think nobody on that team saw that coming. Absolutely ridiculous. Last couple seconds there now. Just take a look back and really give us some details. We got Shywager.
Yeah, these guys had the power, they brought the force and cleaned out the game even at the worst circumstance possible. Even throughout the game, we saw double snipes. We saw so many cool utilizing mechanics being used across internationally, which is huge because, you know, Lupo and Monster had a conversation. Are these guys caught up? Do they have enough time? Is everything, you know, in place for this region to be at the top spot next to EU, NA, right? We have this breakdown of a little bit of separation West, EU, Brazil, as well as NA East, and they're all in that big top 8 region. But we have these top 4s. The first time you've seen NME on the board, these games actually broadcasted as well. We can see people now becoming stars, right? We could have the next insane commerce clutch individual mongrel, but, you know,
I love you, baby,
across the season, different time zone, playing his own type of metagame, his own type of stats being dropped down from height, going upwards, downwards, everywhere around the entire server. So it's really cool seeing how new region develops and exactly where they actually place themselves in the timeline of exactly how their skills are, how their build fighting metagame is, what they try to do on height afterwards. A pattern you see we saw in the first EU games where, hey, if MMB have height, everyone below them, no shields at all. Every tag, if it's a headshot from the scar, it's an easy 72 white damage tag that usually gets them that elim at the end. Middle East, same way. We're going to break it down in just a second, but there's an entire type of shifted metagame where it's kind of those early Season 3, Season 4 tendencies combined with the knowledge you have at the end types of, you know, Season 8, Season 9 end games where, you know, you're rotating, you're tarping, you're saving your items. At the same time, early game, you're using them immediately. No thought whatsoever. You have everything on your board, you have your inventory, you know exactly what your teammates have, the comms are nice, everything's on the plate, ready to go, ready to get feasted upon. So Middle East right now for me is just, it's really nice. We're going to be going into a clip actually of an early game, I believe, Happy Hamlet game. We're going to dive in with Kinzel, I believe. We'll see how he plays out. Actually, no, this is a power clip. There we go. Kinji up and Happy Hamlet. It's going to be really dope to see him actually cut out force team on height. We talked about the metagame, right? When Shockwaves first got introduced, it was a straight pump or combat shot upwards. It took people time to get used to that AR spray. He has it in his inventory already. These guys are caught up. They know. Ramp edits, practicing creative, right? Very ingenuitive. A lot of ingenuity there, as well as wall replacing for protection. It's not raw gameplay, it's actually curated practice, and they're brand new to the actual international scene. which is amazing. You know, baiting your teammates out for HP, going for finishes. Even support players like Moon know exactly what to do. Now, the star trio that won that previous game, Power FHD, knowing how to use and take angles properly, has traps in front of him, doesn't matter. Knows to stay for those right-hand peeks, knows when to engage, low HP, still does not matter. No pressure taken because these guys have practiced. This is not their first rundown, but it is their first showdown of exactly what they can do. Right? No mats here, has the Elans, low health, still knows exactly when to look up, what to loot. They know their exact win conditions as well, and when to drop them through. Amazing gameplay. We're going to now tune in and see what else they can do on the Middle East. I'm going to be picking it up with my man Zeke coming in. We're both going to hit that cast. We're going to see exactly how these guys go down. We'll relive that breakdown actually together live. Zeke, what did you think about their presence compared to the rest of the international regions?
Man, I think we still have quite a bit more to see from this region. I think it's an amazing breakdown there. I think the ceiling for me is still very high. We haven't quite seen what they're fully capable of, but I think over the weekend, we'll definitely see it. I'm also excited that we get to finally hang out, Shy Wager and Zeke. Chic. We have come together. That was great. Actually, that is a true thing of the game. But anyway, the games are ready. Let's hop right in, Fortnite fam. We're jumping out the battle bus. We're going to begin this game. I can't wait to see what happens here in this game. Because remember, these happened over this morning. Earlier on, while everyone wants to sleep, including myself. I slept like a baby. It's kind of. Not entirely true, but anyway, we're getting into it.